Yeah, nice, Hero. I like the design.
Yeah, I know. Just quick Google. Welcome to SIPCO 27. Today is a steering committee update. Wednesday, 21st December, just before Christmas. Yeah. So today we'll go through a bit of everything. We'll introduce the steering committee again. I know it's a bit repetitive, but I think some people might be new. We'll go through a bit of December SIP update or development, and maybe do a bit of quick look back to 2022 and look forward to 2023. Yeah, and if anybody got anything else to raise, please do. So feel free to, I want to make this more interactive session, so do feel free to unmute or raise your hand if you want to mention anything. So yeah, so the steering committee currently is made of Jude, Gina, and Marvin. I was thinking like maybe you want to each give yourself a little bit introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jude. I work on the steering committee, and I also work on the blockchain. I work for the Stacks Foundation.
Hi, I'm Gina. I'm Chief of Staff at Trust Machines. I've been working in the Stacks ecosystem for about 5 years now. I was on the Hero team prior to joining Trust Machines. And yeah, I'm on the steering committee. And I feel like shout out also to Hero Gamer, who has been facilitating a lot of these calls.
Hey guys, I'm Marvin. I've been in crypto since 2014, formerly with the Stacks Foundation as well, and now working on Rider for a social wallet, hardware component to use your digital identities, and now also on the steering committee. I'm very happy to be here.
Right, and I was thinking if you guys could sort of show some examples of the steering committee's involvement in the SIP 2.1 upgrade process.
Sorry, here, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Would you be able to give examples of the steering committee's involvement in the Stacks 2.1 upgrade process? Sure.
So there's several dimensions to it. One of the things is, making sure the SIP follows the SIP process. So getting it written, getting it submitted to various domain experts to make sure that it is a sound design and that it is supported by the community. And then making sure that the community also supports it and is happy with it. We have done both now. The technical governance and economics consideration advisory boards have signed off on the SIP, and the community has voted on the SIP, both, and that vote took place through, excuse me, an on-chain vote using Stacks tokens. You had 3 different paths to do this, depending on whether or not you were stacking them individually in a pool or were not stacking them. And all three activation criteria for those tracks have been met. So now it's a matter of finalizing the release, choosing a block height for activation, and then we're good to go. It can be ratified.
Cool. Anybody else? Any examples of your practical sort of involvement over the past couple of months?
Myself or Marvin?
Yeah, maybe Marvin and Gina.
I feel like the steering committee is a little bit of like a last resort or last approver. Obviously, a lot of work goes into writing the SIPs, into editing the SIPs. And I think that, just participating in these calls and essentially seeing how the different sort of SIP or the cabs ultimately determine how to proceed and ultimately sort of like come to a quorum. I think that was all a really critical part of the process. But as sort of the steering committee, it feels like there's a little bit more of an overarching, wanting to ensure that the community is sort of participating, et cetera. So, I think that just being on these calls and regularly hearing updates and also seeing what's sort of in the pipeline has been an important process of just knowing that there's SIPs coming down the line and that things are continuing to move forward.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit to that. So I've only just joined recently in relative terms. So I wouldn't say I haven't exercised many core steering committee duties so far, but it's what I've ramped up more is talking to people that are either working on a SIP or have been doing some SIP work, or even just want some clarification, and being involved in that process is what I've been doing mostly, and that has been fun. And of course being up to date with all the SIPs and what's going on there, and seeing how that's ramping up as well. But yeah, the core aspects I'll still have to do a bit more on.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great to hear. Like steering committee is starting to well, it's getting more and more involved, and as we build out the whole SIP support system. And I drew like a little bit of chart to sort of show people like who are the reviewers in the process. And it's made of 3 groups of people: the SIP editors, the consideration advisory boards, and the steering committee. And all this make up the SIP reviewers. If you like, yeah, if anybody got any comments about that. But yes, just trying to, but in fact, like you can be part of the review process. You can make a lot of comments, even if you're not part of the board. So it is a community-wide sort of effort. But these are the sort of official groups of people. And for example, so from the SIP ideas to the end, the status of the SIP itself goes from draft, accepted, recommended, activation in progress, and ratified. And it's these 3 group of people that sort of guarding at each stage that allows this process to be really robust. Yeah, so the SIP 15, for example, Stack Super 1 upgrade is currently at activation in progress. Yeah, so, and I believe like most of the activation criteria is being met. But yeah, if anybody got any comments, feel free. So a bit of a December update to the SIP development. So SIP 13 has been ratified. So thanks to Marvin's proposal. And currently SIP 15 is work in progress. Yeah, so if anybody got any comments about these 2 SIPs, please feel free. Maybe Jude can give us a bit of update on the SIP 15, the latest.
Sure. We will hopefully have a release candidate binary out this week. That's a week later than we said we were originally going to do it. So I apologize for that. We had discovered a couple of last minute problems in testing it, but those have since been rectified. SIP 15 will activate along with SIP 18 and SIP 20 because they each contain pieces of the overall 2.1 feature set. So once, excuse me, once we have that release candidate out, we can verify that the node will boot up to the current chain tip without a problem. We will proceed to recommend a activation block height. So a Bitcoin block height at which the new rules will take effect. Right now, that is looking like sometime around January 17th, just to give other folks like wallet providers, Explorer providers, exchanges a chance to, and miners a chance to install the binary and test it for themselves. But that's still TBD. It's part of the SIP's activation criteria, just hasn't been specified yet.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for the hard work over the past year or 2 on this. Anything else? Maybe Marvin, you'd like to comment anything on SIP 13? When it's ratified, what does that mean? How can people use that SIP 13?
Sure. Yeah, SIP 13 went through a very long process with lots of input from many different people. I do see a hand being raised here, so maybe after my quick spiel here. So semi-fungible tokens are the equivalent of the ERC 1155s for those of you who've dabbled with Ethereum. So these are types of tokens that are, as the name implies, are not completely fungible, but also not completely non-fungible. And this lends itself to lots of new interesting developments. So a standard for this up until, of course, SIP 13 did not exist, and there was an emerging need in the community to have such a token. So I wrote the SIP and went through a community process to set all of that up. And yes, it recently got ratified, which means that it's now safe for use. I do believe that a few platforms would still, need to implement this, but these tokens work, and we have seen implementations by different players in the ecosystem. So that's very exciting. And semi-fungible tokens are really useful for not just stuff like on-chain games, but also more interesting financial products. So Alex has been using semi-fungible tokens, and yeah, a lot more. So it's I think very exciting that we have this standard now.
Okay, thank you. Binaya, do you want to unmute and say something? You have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Hiro, and thank you everybody for this call. I have questions in two parts. One is from last week's call. That'll be second question. The first one, I noticed. So from my understanding, this Stacks 2.1 upgrade is a culmination of a bunch of SIPs combined together, and it will enhance features for the Stacks blockchain. My question is, once the voting has been captured, I noticed in the previous slide, Hiro, if you want to go back one slide, that after the voting has occurred, there's a next, the right here, after the act. So what does it mean to be ratified after the vote has took place? Like if there's like something that's missing or that critical error or bug has been found after the vote, can like some paths can be passed before it is updated to the blockchain? I just wanted to understand that process. And also in the last week's call, there was a discussion regarding how individual developer can update their node and then, update paths to their stack software, and then other voluntary node operators could maybe download and then have their upgrades as well. I understand the reasoning behind that was, the SIP process was slow, and then if somebody wanted to, have their network upgrade really fast, they could do that. But I want to kind of ask a question regarding the risk related to that, because could that be a way where bugs and the security risks could be introduced to the network? Because I understand the SIP that goes through a bunch of validation, and SIP editors, CAPs, and other committees are verifying all that before it is upgraded to the network. So I kind of understand the give and takes on those two. So sorry for the long-winded question.
To answer your first question, the steering committee advances the SIP from activation in progress to ratified once the activation criteria are met. The only thing blocking the transition for SIP 15, SIP 18, and SIP 20 to going to ratified are as follows. We need to have a release binary that people can go and run. We need to also agree on a block height at which the rules take effect. These two things are still to be done. So until those two things happen, the SIP will remain in activation in progress. There's more to activating SIPs than just doing a vote. To answer your second question, there's probably not a way to succinctly answer that, because you're talking about a very broad design space for the system. Right now, maybe I can answer it specifically to Stacks 2.1. Even if there was a way to do in-band patches to the Clarity VM, which is what I believe we talked about last time, that would not help us here, because the Stacks 2.1 release changes things outside of the Clarity VM. It changes some things related to mining. It changes some things related to fork rules to make the system more robust in certain adversarial cases. So there's no world in which this could have been released as in a means that would allow node operators to seamlessly upgrade. Philosophically speaking, I'm kind of skeptical of such systems in general, just because users, by not running nodes, retain veto power over the process, and I want to keep that in place. So by making it so that users have to opt in to new releases, we maintain that user autonomy in the system. So ultimately, the SIP process and developers are answerable to users, as opposed to users just having to take whatever developers give them.
Awesome. Thank you for that comment, Jude.
Thank you for your question. It's good to get that sort of level of clarity. Yeah, so yeah, maybe let's have a look at some of the highlights from this year. Yeah, so I just want for people to share around what's people's favorite sort of highlights of the past year in the SIP world. Yeah, so I thought maybe we could just go around the table. Maybe some people like Binaya, who's generously opt in to contribute towards the SIP editors, or J2P2. Yeah, please feel free to mention something that was sort of your favorite moment over the past year.
I'm gonna steal everyone's thunder and jump in and just say that I greatly appreciate you, Hero Gamer, and how much you've done to, like, really manage this whole process. It's just been absolutely amazing, and we truly can't thank you enough. This has been incredible.
Yes, seconded. Absolutely, Hero. You're a vital asset to the community.
Thanks, guys. Just doing what I'm supposed to do, I guess. Yeah, so anybody else, like maybe from the caps, anybody feel free to raise your hand. Can people just unmute, or do they have to get permission? Algorithm, Sting, J2P2, maybe John, if you want to mention anything, please feel free. Oh, Binaya.
I'll go while everybody thinks about their moments, but it wasn't really a moment. It was really like, well, actually it was a moment. I want to say like around the second or third SIP call, we started to get some really solid attendance, and it's been consistent ever since. Again, shout out to you, Hero. Shannon beat me to it, but my favorite moment was actually bringing you on as SIP president. But second to that was just seeing how much activity and discussion we were able to get. So a couple of discussions that really stick out in my mind were ones about minor decentralization. That got just a lot of traction, a lot of participation, and it's a super important discussion for next year. I know that that's going to be a big priority area. So just the fact that we were able to give community space to that discussion, I thought was really important, and it's what the SIP process is all about.
Yeah, thank you, guys. What about Nat? I just saw Nat come in. Nat, do you wanna say anything? We're on the topic of what was the sort of the SIP highlight of the past year. I will mention maybe my SIP highlights. Yeah, I think getting more community people joining the process, it's very satisfying, because it will help the decentralization of the decision-making process. That I think it's very nice that Jude and allow me to sort of pull in all these different random people from the community who aren't typically the sort of the guy doing the involved in the core development work. So yeah, for me that's pretty cool that I have the sort of flexibility to pull different people in.
I'd like to make a quick comment surrounding the same topic we're discussing. If that's okay, Hero.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Just a couple things about so this past year I've closely interacted and watched the Stacks ecosystem since the mainnet launched, and this past this second year for Stacks, I got to know and learn through the SIP highlight calls that you've been doing, Hero, that okay, it is truly a decentralized process that's trying to bring in people from the community, and that I got to see and realize firsthand that okay, if you really want to have the changes to the protocol, and if it's something that's going to be beneficial, then you have the power to kind of go through the step-by-step process. And this SIP calls and the work that Hero has been doing has brought a lot of that front and center, so to speak, in terms of before I was not aware of how SIPs would come to be, but now I know, okay, you have an edit and you submit it to other people, you get that checked, and then on to next level. So I think bringing that to the forefront of all the community members, and then showing them that okay, it is possible, you can have an impact. I think it's huge. And on another topic that another speaker also mentioned about the minor decentralization. Minor centralization has been one of the largest concern for myself. So I understand it with Stacks 2.1 upgrade. So the non-custodial mining pools are possible, and potentially those features can help us, increase the number of miners. So I guess this is a question there from the team that's working closer towards that minor decentralization aspect of the SIP. What are the projections as to okay, how many miners could we see increase, or like how many pools could we see spring up? So what's the outlook for minor decentralization for the next year? I guess this is a question.
I know it's something that's very top of mind across the ecosystem, and there's going to be actually a presentation by Maddie Sachs, who has done a lot of great analysis on the various different SIP proposals related to mining decentralization on January 13th. So I would encourage you to tune into that to get a little bit more of a deep dive on some of the initiatives that we could see go live early next year.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I just want to +1 to what Binaya is saying. And in fact, the first cycle of 2023 is getting Maddie on to talk about minor decentralization. So on the 13th of January, that will be the first SIP code we're going to reconvene again. And the topic is minor decentralization. So yeah, I'll be promoting that session, and hope you and everybody else can join the conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just want to also +1 some of your points, Binaya, in terms of this being a really decentralized ecosystem. I think one of the things that's been most exciting for me this year is just all these regularly attended calls. The fact that there's consistently, 15 to 30 or more people on these calls. Hero, thank you for all the promotion that you do of these calls, of the initiatives. I think those are some really major wins. The fact that everyone here is really interested in the progress of the Stacks ecosystem. Also just the fact that there have been multiple SIPs that are sort of in the process right now, Stacks 2.1, I think just the agility of the community to be able to move quickly and sort of come together to really rally around upgrades, things like Stacks 2.1, and then also the fact that there are community members who are able to collaborate with different SIP editors and cabs to implement SIPs in a pretty quick cadence. I think one of the SIPs was written in like a week. So that makes me really optimistic just about the future of this ecosystem and the fact that we can really make progress. So I'm really excited about what's to come in 2023, but I think a lot of the groundwork was really laid this year. And really shout out to Hero Gamer for your all your work through the residency and just everyone who's here. I know that folks come to these calls on like a really regular basis, and I just want to shout out to everyone in the community who's taking part and voting, etc.
Thank you, Gina. Yeah, it's really great to see. Perhaps it's Christmas now, a little bit. We're sort of cooling down, but yeah, hopefully, I do think like if we move the call out of the Zoom, we might get more attendance. But you won't be able to screen share. Perhaps we can do it in Discord, then you can screen share, or do it. I think on Twitter you might get the most number of audience. That's something I've been thinking about over the past few months, but I haven't come to a conclusion yet.
Hero, is there another opportunity to share a highlight? Do we have time? I just saw.
Yeah, please.
Okay, for fear of kind of tooting my own horn here, but I want to quickly mention SIP 18, the structured data SIP. Yes, yeah, I wrote it, but what I find very interesting and why this is a highlight to me is because this was really a true community effort, even though it might not seem like one. So I might have written the document, but this came out of talking to many people. And what I find particularly interesting about SIP 18, which is now in its basically final stage, is that this was on no roadmap of the Stacks chain. This wasn't on anyone's mind when Stacks 2 launched. And this SIP managed to ripple through and basically affect every layer of the Stacks ecosystem. So it triggered a change in Clarity. We got an extra feature that we wanted. It got implemented by Hero and Hero Wallet. It even got implemented in the Stacks Ledger application recently. And also many different platforms. Alex has been using this for their order book and many other places. So that's a highlight to me because this purely came out of the community and it managed to affect everything in the Stacks ecosystem. And I think that's the power of SIPs, right? You have this location that can trigger such an effect to everyone's benefit. Truly coming from the community. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. It was a long process, and of course, and many arguments had to be made for good reason. But just the fact that this was possible coming out of this single SIP document, I think is just very cool.
Yeah, I agree. Like many of the contributors, they are not necessarily like on social media a lot. They always go in and comment on the GitHub file itself. People like, and that's one of the things I like to highlight, these contributors to like who are more of an unsung hero, like in my eyes, like people like El Now or even like Dan, like he contributes a lot to different conversations on GitHub. I just really think like these people, they deserve really to be known somehow, because they are not always on social media, not in the broad people's eyes.
Hero, the real hero. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Good to see everybody here for the end of the year. I think I'd agree with some of the points that were just put forward, and what you were saying, Hero, obviously about maybe moving the call to the Discord, maybe to get a little bit more people here, and then maybe to be kind of like directly in the community, still have the screen sharing ability. I mean, I don't think Twitter would be the right place for the SIP calls. But I think it's just more about, I know from my end, connecting to kind of like regular people or newbies within the crypto space and kind of letting them know. I know you've been hard on that mission, man, and definitely got a big up to you for being hard on that mission of getting people to understand how important the SIPs are and how they can contribute as well. So I think that is a big thing going into 2023 for me working on the chapters, and also within the advocs is just trying to, get people to understand how important they are, what they are, and the contribution as well that they can make. So yeah, that's it really from my end. But I'm glad to see all of the improvements that has been happening over time. And I think it was maybe Gina that said earlier about you know, with the 2.1 upgrades and the other upgrades we've got coming, it would be absolutely great to be able for people to be able to learn and work a little bit faster. I think that's where a lot of things kind of fall down for some people that are new to the ecosystem. So yeah, definitely, bro. All good though.
Yeah, thank you. We will be making that process even more inclusive next year, because I'm planning to have more SIP editors. Well, we don't have officially now, but that will, I can connect with you, with the chapters, and with the advocates. But yeah, like already I'm connecting with the chapters from Australia, because one of the guys called Tiggs, he runs several Bitcoin nodes. He seemed like a fairly technical guy, but he's sort of new to the Stacks ecosystem. But I think he has sort of the potential to be part of the SIP process sort of quite deeply. So I'm sort of pulling him in. So if you have anybody in mind that can join part of the SIP process movement, yeah, please do let me know from Stacks London.
Bro, you know, it's always going to be me in it, because I got to dive into everything. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next session. So what can we look forward to next year? Yeah, so if anybody got anything they have in mind, I'll go first. In 2023, I'm very much personally looking forward to helping Werner to move his SIP forward, and Mutu, who has a node sort of improvement idea, to sort of allow them to go through the whole SIP process really easily, and the miner decentralization side of things. So those two are probably my sort of current looking forward to in 2023. Yeah, Marvin or anybody else, please feel to jump in.
Yeah, I know mine is a bit broad here, but this is just a general direction I've been seeing with the SIPs, where, you know, very early on there was a bit of a visibility issue. Like, people didn't really know about this process and where they could find it and how it works. And then it felt like there was some barriers where people felt like it would be either too difficult, or their SIPs would not be accepted if they would write one. But this has changed a lot, and, you know, you're seeing a lot more suggestions for SIPs and people writing SIPs, and also the community having greater visibility into it now, also thanks to these calls, Hero. Thank you for that. So that's generally what I'm looking forward to getting more people involved, and yeah, maybe also having new platforms to augment the SIP process. So I'm excited to see that, and it's very nice how open this is, right? Basically anyone can submit a SIP and it be considered fairly. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I agree with all that, and also the exciting SBTC and some broader Stacks Layer 1 updates have been proposed for next year. So definitely excited about those, and sort of having Stacks be able to write back to Bitcoin. I think that's going to be a really significant upgrade for the community. So excited about that too.
Yeah, definitely excited about those. To what Hero said, really excited about getting a SIP together around mining decentralization. We had a really good discussion recently about the possibility of eliminating hard forks and potentially upgrading the Clarity VM. So I don't know if that will be a SIP that can come together in next quarter or even in Q2, but getting a working group together around that issue. And also just expanding the SIP editor program. I know Hero has been hard at work recruiting SIP editors. I've been putting together a program for the SIP editors myself, and would just hope that that is something that will get the community excited about getting involved in different ways. Right now we have the calls, of course, but I think expanding the SIP committee so that everybody can have a role and responsibilities in the SIP process will make the SIP process even more accessible. So that's a big goal for both me and Hero next year.
Yeah, definitely. And just want to shout out to all the people who are from the SIP editor committee that I contacted recently, Binaya, J2P2. Yeah, I tried to contact a few others, but if you're interested, if you're on this call, please feel free to contact me. But yeah, good to see some of the faces from the people that I contacted recently. Anybody else got anything they look forward to in 2023?
Yeah, I want to add a couple of things that I'm looking forward to for the next year. I'm just as excited as everybody else about 2.1 upgrade and SBTC and all of that. What I've been looking forward to is a little bit of background. Just most recently, I'm working closely with a couple of people to build a Lightning application for the purposes of remittance. So I was born in Nepal, and Nepal is a country that's 30 billion GDP, and 10 billion out of 30 billion per year comes from inbound remittance. And global average cost of transfer is like 5%. So $500 million lost every year to remittance. And the solution is to, do it over Lightning and then have this hand over to like the, either central bank or the, government entities to do this for them. But what I want to do and what I'm excited about is because Stacks 2.1 upgrade allows for like the deeper integration between Stacks and Bitcoin, and I view Stacks as the only digital assets that gives Bitcoin yield. Like that's the real asset. So I would like to think about and understand whether it's possible in a Lightning or Bitcoin app to have so basically the remittance app would also be a banking service provider. Like the people have account, and if they want to lock up some of their Bitcoin, now they'll be able to, or give them Bitcoin yield basically by virtue of just through Stacks is what I'm looking forward to. And then maybe onboard a nation state to Stacks.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, okay. Anybody else? I see a question. Where can we find the best and easiest ways to intro rough proposal ideas for improvements? Yeah, I think come to this call for sure, because I do sort of give an intro about what is SIP, and also Stacks Forum is a great place. Maybe we what? In fact, one of the sort of roles of the SIP editors is to introduce, to onboard, and to welcome some of the new guys. So we will be figuring that out, maybe even make that even more easier through SIP editor. But yeah, currently I think the best form is to come to this call, but also Stacks Forum. I mean, maybe the Stacks Discord, the governance section is a good way too. But yeah, if not the forum, where I think Discord maybe, but I know GitHub is a great place, but it is fairly reserved for the technical guys. Yeah, I think maybe the Discord is one of the better ways, but we'll be making that even easier next year. And if you have any suggestions, please feel free to let me know. I'll go on that. A rough proposal. I mean that will be the work of the SIP editors to facilitate that process, making it easier. So we will be sort of shaping the SIP editors responsibilities even more over the coming few months. And hopefully through that effort, we will be able to guide the rough proposal through much easier and quicker.
Yeah, I just said in the chat here or there, I know there was some talk about in the advocates of using DWork to do a lot of governance stuff before. So I don't know if maybe that's a thought that's in your mind somewhere of having proposals or maybe even rough proposals put out into DWork. And what does everybody else think about using DWork as well? Because you know, quite a lot of people are using DWork. It seems to be the most popular kind of form of people kind of using community contributions at the moment for a lot of communities. So what does everybody think about using DWork?
Maybe from my point of view, I think it would be great to have just one place. And I know the voting website that Marvin sort of built the foundation on, there is actually a place where you can leave the messages on the website. So maybe that's one way. If we have DWork and that place, I don't know if that will get confusing, but I think any way is better than no way. So maybe that's something we can explore. But yeah, okay. But yeah, we will be looking into that a little bit more. Thank you for raising that point, Algo and Nat. Council could be something. Yeah, I mean, we can speak to them. Currently, the community there is a little bit small, but we could, I think maybe there are different routes and we don't have to be exclusive to one route. Maybe we do have various method for people to come in and propose something. Yeah, all ideas are good. So yeah, please let me know. Okay, so just to sort of cap off, so next Friday in January, 13th of January will be our first SIP call back from New Year. So please join that SIP call, and it will be about Stacks mining report plus decentralization on mining. So please feel free to join that call too. It'll be a very important call. So I hope to see a lot of people. And just to sort of give you guys a overview of what I'm trying to do over the past month, over the next month or two, is I'll be shaping the SIP editor program, which the SIP editor could take part in different roles. Could be somebody who has more technical sort of skill, and that person can facilitate the writing or the coming together of the technical side for somebody who may not have every question answered in the SIP proposal. We will have the reviewers, we'll have the welcomers, we'll hopefully maybe have educators, an amplifier. So all this sort of SIP editor plays sort of the beginner part, the beginner stage of getting the SIP program out there, making people aware of the SIP, helping people to propose SIPs, making that initial stage process much easier, which is kind of what we touched on just now. So, yep, if you're interested, please let me know. Yeah. And thank you for everybody who joined today. And because you guys have kindly joined, and I'm gonna give a little bit of a giveaway for the attendees. So yeah, I'm just gonna quickly do it on on this website, and it will be SIP 15 DNS name. So it's a pretty good one. And SIP 15 is what we just been through. In case anybody doesn't know. Yeah, Stacks 2.1 upgrade. But yeah, if anybody got anything else, please feel free to comment. Any closing words?
Thanks to everyone who's been involved in SIPs over the last 6 months. It's been really great and really looking forward to the future of governance and decision-making on Stacks. And thank you, Hero. Happy holidays, everyone.
Just gonna quickly do this. Oh, oh, Gina again. Gina?
I think you need to do it again because
Okay, on the last time.
yeah,
Can I do it again?
yeah, do it again.
Sorry, I'm coughing real bad today. Whoa. Okay, JKP2. Yeah, thank you for coming. You have won. So yeah, thank you everybody for coming. I hope you have a nice weekend. Yeah, and a nice Christmas and New Year. Thank you for coming this year. Thank you.